and live.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting of Suffolk Public Sector Leaders. I'm Councillor Suzie Morley, Leader of Mid-Suffolk District Council, and I will be chairing the meeting today. This meeting is being broadcast live and is available to watch on Suffolk County Council's website whilst we are in public session. Item 1, welcome and apologies. I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting. Ian Gallant has sent his apologies, and we have Jill Corwin, Strategic Director of West Suffolk Council, attending on his behalf, and Ed Garratt of CCG has also sent his apologies, and we have Richard Watson with us, who's the Deputy Chief Executive and Director of Strategy and Transformation. So moving on to the notes of the last meeting.
Sorry, Suzie. Apologies from John Griffiths.
Oh, I've just had notification that John is actually attending.
Oh, he is attending.
I am attending it, but I have a very bad connection, so I'm delighted that Deputy Sarah Malwait's there, who will talk much more sense than me anyway. But if you can manage to put up with us both, that would be great. I'm just like,
You're both very welcome.
Is that allowed? Yep.
Of course it is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, John. So the notes of the last meeting, if I can hand over to Caroline Davison to talk us through these.
Thank you, Chair. So these are the notes of the last public meeting, which was in November, at the end of November. There's no actions outstanding. The agreement to release the funding for the international trade managers is covered in the budget report, and actually was already money that was already committed. So there's no actual kind of change in terms of the budget position, but happy to answer any queries.
Lovely. Thank you, Caroline. So unless anybody's got any queries on clarification, I'll take that as approved by all leaders.
Yes, approved, Suzie.
Lovely. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Moving on now to the Festival of Suffolk. I'm really honoured to welcome the Lord Lieutenant of Suffolk, Claire Countess of Euston, and Deputy Lieutenant Mark Pendlington, who are joining us to provide more details about the Festival of Suffolk. And I'd like to invite the Lord Lieutenant and Deputy Lieutenant to talk through the presentation that has been circulated to leaders in advance. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to be with you this morning, and I'm so grateful to you all for this opportunity to talk about the Festival of Suffolk. But before asking Mark to take us through some of the detail, may I first say a heartfelt and personal thank you to everyone on this call for the most remarkable way in which you have led us through this dreadful pandemic. As we dare to hope, we are now in the recovery phase. We do not forget as a county everything you have done as individual organisations and collectively. From the work of the Resilience Forum and the delivery of the outstanding vaccination programme, to community outreach, business support, our health and education services, and all those in our blue light services. Suffolk can be enormously proud as well as hugely grateful for everything you have all done. The festival aims to capture this mood as we recover, reset and recharge. The 6th of February marked the 70th anniversary of the Queen's accession. By any standards, a remarkable personal achievement, and one of huge historic global significance too. And I know that all of us in Suffolk join with others across the country to wish her a speedy recovery from COVID. Now in its Platinum Jubilee year, the Festival of Suffolk will shine a spotlight on all that is best about our wonderful county. It will be a joyous celebration, but we will also address some of our toughest challenges too. The festival will be for everyone, and I am so grateful how communities Local authorities, the media, business leaders, MPs, sporting organisations, arts, heritage and culture groups, and so many others are coming forward with wonderful ideas and initiatives to bring this festival to life. 2 years ago, or maybe even 3 years ago, I asked Mark Pendlington to chair the festival, as no one is better at keeping many plates spinning in the air than he is. He's brought together a remarkable group of volunteers who are working tirelessly to organise the many varied events. I will now ask him, please, Mark, to share some of the details, and afterwards we will be delighted to answer any questions you might have, and your ideas and feedback are hugely welcome too. Thank you, Suzie.
Thank you, Lady Euston. Over to you.
Thank you, Lady Claire and Suzie. And I'm not sure whether the presentation, Josephine is able to share it yes, looks like perfect. Thank you, Josephine, very much. As Lady Claire said, the Festival of Suffolk is all about celebrating what is best about wonderful Suffolk, but it's also important that the festival has a legacy. Suffolk knows how to party, and it can party extremely well. But the legacy point is hugely important for the festival, to make sure that when the bunting is put away at the end of this year, that what is left behind helps us to tackle a lot of the challenges, as Lady Claire said, that face us in Suffolk. And I know that everyone on the call and thousands of other organisations are working really hard to tackle these issues, and the festival is here to support that effort and to encourage many more people to join in addressing the challenges. So if, Josephine, we could have the first slide, and I promise everyone on the call this is not death by PowerPoint. I'll speed through this to allow time for questions and feedback. As Lady Claire said, this is a celebration for Suffolk and of Suffolk during the Platinum Jubilee. It is for all people and all communities, wherever people live, work, learn, visitors, everyone, whatever community people belong to, be it geographic or whatever other means. We want everyone in Suffolk to feel that when they hear about the festival, and with your help, they are hearing about it more and more, that they feel involved and welcome and want to be part of it, that this festival is for them. So the next slide, please, Josephine. Just to reinforce the point about this being for everybody. And the next slide, please, Josephine. We have, over the past 18 months or so, consulted literally hundreds of organisations and thousands of people to say, do you want a Festival of Suffolk? And if you do want a Festival of Suffolk, what will it look like? What will success look like for you? And the feedback has been coming in thick and fast. And this has led to a series of of values and some goals. So the festival has a real focus and can have a real impact and leave an impactful legacy. We want the festival to be open, very inclusive and welcoming. We want it to be original, quirky, fun, colourful, noisy, and to really attract the attention of not only everyone in Suffolk, but the region and UK PLC beyond. We want it to be relentlessly optimistic. As Lady Claire said, reset, recover, recharge. Let's really focus on everything that Suffolk wants to be and has ambition to be, and let the festival bring a focus to that and encourage more people to get involved. It must bring Suffolk together, or help bring it even more together as a united festival, bringing generations and diverse communities together in this joyful celebration. The golden thread through it all is compassion, reaching out to those who are feeling hurt, vulnerable, isolated, but also those who can make an even greater contribution to the welfare and future of Suffolk than perhaps even they realise. Let's light that spark underneath people, places and organisations. And it is of Suffolk. Suffolk, I think we can be open on this call and say that Suffolk is a very modest, self-effacing county. Well, you know, to my mind, this is time to get the trumpet out and give it a good tootle. We need Suffolk to be seen as a relentlessly optimistic, achieving county, home to many, many remarkable people and places that deserve the spotlight to shine brightly on them. And the next slide, please. This is about our goals, and we're not just a group of self-selecting people that have come together to say, let's have a party during Jubilee year. We've based it and invented a range or introduced a range of new measures. We've looked very carefully at the strategy for public sector leaders, the economic, social, environmental strategy. We've obviously looked also at the hidden needs report, sobering. It not only celebrates Suffolk, but it's sobering in that it highlights many challenging areas in Suffolk that many people I know are addressing, but we want the festival to be help that effort. So the Hidden Needs Report, published by the Suffolk Community Foundation, contributed to by all the organisations on this call and many more, researched by the University of Suffolk. We'd taken that evidence and saying, well, as we look at the legacy we want to leave and the impact we want the festival to have, let's base it on the evidence that is already out there that we're all working to address. And we've added the dimension of the sustainability goals, the global sustainability goals. There are 17 of them. You'll all be familiar with them. And this isn't the festival saying, well, we're taking on global challenges. I think more businesses and organisations are focusing on these UN sustainability goals, and we wanted to adopt them too, because many of them feed into the aspirations and work of the festival. So the next slide, please, Josephine. I fell into the trap at an early stage of thinking of community as my lovely village or my local market town. But of course, communities can be of any description. They can be a hobby group, an ethnic group, whatever it might be. And just to underline here that the way communities work, we want whatever community somebody belongs to or feels they belong to, this is a festival for them. It's not just geographic and villages and towns. It is communities that are selecting all over Suffolk. And the next slide, please. When we did this big consultation about the festival, people fed back to us what success would look like, and broadly it came down into these 6 categories, which although the words may not precisely align to Suffolk Suffolk public sector leader strategy, they do blend and merge really well. Enterprise, very quickly I'll go through these. Enterprise, celebrating business success. We all know the world-class brands and businesses and people we have here in Suffolk, working incredibly hard, remarkable people doing amazing things. We want the festival to focus on that success, to celebrate it, but just as important, to encourage people of all generations who have aspirations and ambitions to grow, to base a business here and to grow it, to know that Suffolk is one of the best places, if not the best place in the UK, to do just that. And that if you're a young person or anybody who wants to have a job in Suffolk or a great career, then you don't have to leave Suffolk to do well for yourself and your family and those you care about the most. So we want to shine a spotlight on enterprise, entrepreneurship and innovation. Then the environment, beautiful Suffolk, to improve sustainability and enhance our natural surroundings. And we're all on a mission to do that, I know. Culture, tourism, the arts and heritage, celebrating Suffolk's unique and wonderful arts culture, connecting everyone to our rich and diverse heritage. Opportunity in education, this is tackling aspiration for young people, broadening horizons and raising and realising aspirations, particularly in those areas that we all know where the challenge about that is the toughest. And we need to reach those people and reach those areas. If the festival can, it's determined it will. Health and well-being, my goodness, this is physical health and mental health. Getting people out, about, healthy, moving, being together, communities coming back together, making sure that we have a big focus on health and well-being, and championing both of those as much as we can, and supporting the work that's going on in those already, and communities, strengthening community cohesion, bringing communities back together, boosting volunteering, increasing resilience across all communities. And the next slide, please, Josephine. And the next one, that's just giving me a bit of breathing space. Thank you. Now, here's very quickly, give you a flavour of what people are planning and doing for the festival. We have these festival headline events, which would not be happening if it wasn't for the festival. I'll come on to these in a second. There's also the 500 or so annual events that happen in Suffolk in a normal year, and wouldn't we like one of those back again quite quickly? So we're encouraging and contacting the events that are regular annual features of all our social and community calendars, encouraging everyone organising those events to adopt the festival theme, to celebrate the Jubilee, but allow the festival to help and support and promote those events so that we can bring communities back together. And then there are community events that are happening spontaneously, flower festivals, church bell ringing, community big lunches, whatever it might be. Communities are hugely creative in getting events underway. So we're encouraging those events to register with us so we can boost and support that as well. These festival events, very quickly, Festival of the Sea, which is going to be a very big 3-week festival, but it will cover everything from the Lowestoft Maritime Festival right down to Royal Navy, RNLI, fishing industry, boat building industry, marine operators, all celebrating the value of the sea and the marine environment, the value of the sea to our economy, our social lives, our environment. So everything there from a flotilla of over 100 ships will be sailing from Harwich north. What could possibly go wrong? We know which is all being planned around the tides. And that's going to be happening in June. We've then got the business expos. I talked about enterprise earlier, 10 business interactive exhibitions, mainly for young people, but attracting all generations to come and hear about 10 business sectors and the excellence that they are delivering for Suffolk and the region and for UK PLC. And those are being organised by Lisa Perkins at BT and a terrific team. On the 14th of May, we have the Jockey Club organising a special Newmarket race day. All the funds going to the Festival Fund, which is being managed by the Suffolk Community Foundation. This is the fund we're trying to build to be able to help financially those groups who are aligned to our goals and aspirations, so that we can help people on a practical level after the festival deliver the legacy that we are so ambitious for. So that's the 14th of May. We're hoping to have a race goers, and it's for all of Suffolk, and it's celebrating Suffolk. It's not just racing, it is a Suffolk celebration day at Newmarket. And we're hoping to have over 5,000 people there. There's a big festival concert on the 10th of September. 18,000 tickets went on sale for that about a month ago, and they're selling like hotcakes. There's a Let's Rock concert, 1980s performers will be there, all recognisable names. A special book called A Gallant for Suffolk is being published in mid-May for sale for the Festival Fund. This is a compendium of 90 national and international authors who have contributed articles about Suffolk, about its heritage, its quirkiness, its folklore, its industry, its environment. It's going to be the most wonderful bestseller for the Festival Fund, and we're hugely grateful to over 90 international and national contributors for contributing to this book. It's going to be a real souvenir. Youth games, or it should be community games, with Abbeycroft Leisure happening in Bury St Edmunds. The whole county is coming together for a day of fun, families, sport, and that is on Saturday the 9th of July. The Queen's Green Canopy, we're aiming to plant over 750,000 trees, one for every resident in Suffolk, and we're already up to a total, I think, of about 240,000. And this is the Queen's Green Canopy, the national and Commonwealth-wide campaign, and this is reaching into urban as well as rural areas. This is for people to plant a single tree or lots of trees wherever you live, in remembrance or in celebration of something, or just because you love trees and want to make Suffolk even greener. The festival marathon is really more park runs. We're aiming, with the help of Suffolk County Council, who being and the district councils being a most amazing help and support on so many levels with the festival, but in particular on the marathon, doubling the number of people who are involved in park runs across the county. And then community events. In mid-May, we will start, and I hope you've all seen the coverage of a torch relay, 540 miles around Suffolk. It will take 2 weeks to complete its run, and it will celebrate communities. The print, broadcast and social media will put a searing focus on the communities the torch passes through, and through each community we're inviting the communities to nominate a champion to carry the torch through that area. It's going to be accompanied by a golden rickshaw and a very dedicated team who are putting heart and soul into making sure this involves every community. The torch will arrive finally after it's run through Ipswich at the second day of the Suffolk show, where there will be the most enormous Jubilee pageant, at which Lady Clare will take the salute, and this will involve military as well as voluntary organisations, community organisations, blue light services. It will be noisy, fun, colourful, everything you want a pageant to be, to celebrate the Jubilee. And the torch will then go the following evening to the beach at Lowestoft, where Lady Clare will light the first beacon of a chain of over 70 across Suffolk, in celebration of the national beacon chain that the Queen will light the first beacon in London that evening. So at 9:20 on the beach at Lowestoft, Lady Clare will light the first beacon for Suffolk. So that's just giving you a flavour of the scale and scope of the festival events, how communities are responding. We're overwhelmed literally by inquiries, offer support, ideas. We have memorabilia on sale. Archant have been very kind, and they're looking after our festival shop, so you can buy everything from a tea towel to bunting to goodness knows what. So this is hopefully going to galvanise communities across Suffolk to come together in joyful celebration. And the next slide, Josephine, which I think is almost the last but one, just to give you an idea of the organisations that are really coming together to support us proactively. I could put up 6 slides of names of organisations. This just gives you a flavour of the diversity of those that are interested and who are partnering us for the festival. And the last slide, I think, Josephine, I'm surely running out of steam by now. And the next slide, please. This is a presentation that Lady Clare and I have given many times to many organisations in Suffolk. And it really does have the feeling of an invitation. This is what it's all about. Please be involved. Please join the celebration. Please help communities to be even more prosperous. Let's help to address and reinforce all the work that's going on to address those issues in the Hidden Needs report. And let's use this opportunity as we recover, reset and recharge from the last awful couple of years. Let's use this opportunity for the festival to put some real life back into Suffolk. And I'd like to end as Lady Clare started, please, with a thank you. I know that many on the call, many familiar faces who I've had the enormous pleasure of working with on many levels in recent years. You have all been so enthusiastic and helpful through the challenging times. You've always found a moment to support the idea of the festival. And now as we're getting into the festival year, as we're preparing for the start of the events, you really are stepping up in the most amazing way to offer practical support, you and your teams. And I am deeply grateful, as I know Lady Clare has already said, and is the whole team. And we look forward to working with you in coming months. And if you have any ideas, any questions, any feedback, we would love to hear it. But thank you so much for your time this morning. I know you have such a busy agenda and much else to be thinking about, but thank you for our time with you this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that inspirational presentation and taking the time to share it with us today. The Festival of Suffolk is an exciting opportunity to celebrate Suffolk during this Jubilee year and to provide a positive legacy for Suffolk residents. And therefore, on behalf of Suffolk public sector leaders, I can confirm that we want to offer £10,000 to invest in delivery of the festival and its legacy. And as you say, let's get the trumpets out and get tootling.
That's amazing.
I'm now going to open it up to anybody for comments or for discussion. So thank you so much, Mark and Lady Clare. I really do appreciate your time today. We're going to start with Tim.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you very, very much for that presentation. As you know, Mark and Lady Clare, we're all big supporters of this. I was just going to ask the question, presumably there'll be some sort of publication of the calendar of events, and will this go right up until, well, dare I say it, up to Christmas time? I mean, it's the Platinum Jubilee year, and I know the Festival of Suffolk is part of that, but for example, with our tree planting that we're doing at all the Constabulary buildings, clearly we want to do it at the right time of the year so they survive and are looked after. Is that part of the agenda or not, or is it more compressed as part of the Jubilee?
Well, the National Jubilee celebrations are focused on the first weekend in June.
Yeah.
But the Festival of Suffolk, the events that we have got in the calendar on our website, festivalofsuffolk.org, it is run from early May, when the torch relay starts, to when the concert packs up its bags on the 10th of September. But things like tree planting, you're quite right, Tim. The planting season is October to March, and therefore this is something that will carry on pledges and planting in coming years. So that's not time constrained, obviously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. John?
Suzie, thank you very much. Can I just firstly say how good it is to see Lady Claire and Mark, and also to add all our thanks to all you do for Suffolk, actually the Eastern region and nationally. So, and for a superb presentation. It was just a quick thing. I think your last slide referred to it. All kinds of smaller organisations and parish councils and villages are doing their own sort of things. And how is it best for us to make sure they plug in with you and are aware, both dates-wise, which I think will make the whole festival even more successful, etc., etc. Is there a point of contact where we can direct them to make sure they fed into your information bank, and also where we can feed back all the wonderful things that you've got under control?
John, thank you. Yes, there is. It's all through the website, inevitably, and you can register events or notify us of events. And as soon as you do that, and they've got a Jubilee theme, we put them on the calendar, which is a big feature of the website. So you can look down and see events large and small all there. And we have a dedicated media team, which is print, broadcast and social media, and they are working extremely hard to promote each event that we're notified about, and to make sure that each event, be it a large one or the tiniest one, has a moment in the media spotlight to promote it and to shine a spotlight on the community that's organising it. So it's all via the website, festivalofsuffolk.org.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. CJ?
Thanks, Suzie. I just wanted to say, having been part of the squad that's responsible for the Business Expo part of the Festival of Suffolk, it's been really inspiring and inclusive message. So nothing more to say than weighing in with huge amounts of support. And it's been really wonderful for the LEP to be able to give our support to this.
Bless you, CJ. That's a marvellous thank you, as ever. Yeah, thank you.
CJ. Matthew?
Thanks, Lady Claire and Mark, for the presentation. Obviously very exciting, and obviously really looking forward to it, and so much going on. I'm just wondering how I'm going to get to so many different events, but anyway, I'm sure we'll manage. Just a quick thing, really, just in how we can help more. So clearly so much has gone on. You've got to the point. I mean, just remember that councillors go to multiple parish council meetings repeatedly and give messages to our village, to our parishes at those meetings. So if you have any specific asks or anything you need or anything you want, we can filter that through to the parish councils, filter it through to our councillors, who can filter it through to the parish councils. So please just ask if there are any key messages you want us to get out in that way.
Thank you, Matthew. And I have to say, Suffolk County Council, along with all the other councils, have been so the senior team that you've allowed to spend time on the festival are just amazing, and so thank you for that. And Lady Claire has written, I think, twice now to over 400 parish and town chairs, encouraging them to be part of the festival. But my fear, if I have one, is that we get to the summer and somebody who I bump into, or Lady Claire bumps into, says, if only I'd heard about the festival, we could have had a party or something. So it is awareness, just getting people aware, pointing them to the website, encouraging communities to adopt the festival theme. Because it's not just a one-way street. We can do a lot through our media to help support and shine a spotlight on a lot of events in parishes, these small community events where we want to help bring communities back together. So it's awareness, and it's just banging the drum for the festival, because we are here to help, and we can supply, we can help with bunting and tea towels and all sorts of things, from those small but important details right to the big legacy addressing issues, and every community has a role to play, and we're trying to excite and inform them about it.
Thank you. John?
Yes, thank you, Lady Claire and Mark. This is really exciting. There's a huge range of events, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success. But on a kind of a light-hearted note, may I make a plea on behalf of my fellow leaders who are probably, well, I know of a similar vintage to me. It'd be really nice to have a concert of 70s music as well.
Or 60s.
Well, yes. So, well, John, thank you. And I'm a resident of your area, so I will be with you at the concert with my big hair and flares. And we can only get back as far as the 80s, I'm afraid. We haven't got back as far as the 70s.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
So, on behalf of leaders, I'd like to sincerely thank the Lord Lieutenant and Deputy Lieutenant for joining us today and highlighting these really exciting opportunities of the Festival of Suffolk. So we're going to get the trumpets out and tootle, we're going to get the drums out and we're going to bang them, and we'll spread the news far and wide. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Item 4 is the Suffolk Climate Change Environment and Energy Board. And I'd like to welcome Councillor Andy Drummond, who's the chair of the Suffolk Environment Portfolio Holders Group, and also Jill Corwin, who's chair of the Suffolk Climate Change Environment and Energy Board. And I invite you to present a few slides. And the paper has already been circulated with the agenda.
Fantastic. Thank you, Suzie. Wow, it was a pleasure and a privilege to hear about the festival just now. So I'm really pleased I was on for that part. Thank you for my slide deck. Who is controlling the slides, just out of interest?
That's me, Andy. Jill here.
Okay, Jill, fantastic. So Jill is on hand to give us any details that is not provided by me or the slides. So the first slide says generally what's happening. Thank you for your time this morning, and the paper that's been shared with the agenda sets out the key requests from the Portfolio Holders Group, which is steering the work of the Suffolk Climate Change Environment and Energy Board. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to present these today. Slide 2, please, Jill. So today we have two asks. The first is to agree the proposed engagement approach to support the delivery of the Suffolk Climate Emergency Plan. And number 2, to release a further £400,000 of the funding allocation agreed in June 2021 to support a number of activities to deliver against the priority actions from the SCEP. These proposals have been developed with the Portfolio Holders Group working closely with the Suffolk Climate Change Board, and I have another couple of slides that give a little bit more detail. Slide 3, please, Jill. Our first recommendation relates to engagement. During the development of the emergency plan, we held a series of engagement workshops which were attended very well virtually and had the real benefit of delivering a wider perspective. We've had approaches from a number of people who were originally involved in that work asking us how the plan is evolving and what they could do to support with delivery. At the same time, we've looked at a number of approaches that have been taken across the country to improve engagement with stakeholders, businesses and communities. As a result of the evaluation, different approaches to the Portfolio Holders Group concluded there would be merit in setting up a reference group that would work alongside the officer group that's already in place. Indeed, the SCCP has already recognised that collaboration and behaviour change is key, and there is a priority action to develop collaboration opportunities. If you support this approach, we will develop terms of reference and membership criteria for the reference groups. The members will be approached from the initial stakeholder engagement cohort and other parties who've contacted us having seen the plan. We've taken the opportunity to update the wider governance document that's been attached as an appendix to the paper to show how the links to the other groups. So if I may have slide number 4, please, Jill. So moving to finance, we're delighted that you've made a nominal allocation of 1.5 million to support the delivery of the work. And you'll recall that last year you agreed to our immediate ask of an initial 150,000 to support programme management capacity, communications campaigns, and some initial research work to support delivery. I've included an update on the slide showing how the money has been spent. The programme manager, David Walton, is in post, and we have a homes campaign due to run in February and an event plan for COP26 that was delivered. We've also completed a funding report that sets out for our partners the funding mechanisms that are available to support this work, and I commissioned the local energy asset representation model, which I would like to talk a little more about. So slide 5, please, Jill. The local energy asset representation report, or LEAR, for Suffolk is a wealth of information. The tool required us to segment Suffolk into population groupings of around 200,000 people, which is why you see an unusual data split for the west side of Suffolk and Babergh, Suffolk Central, comprising Mid Suffolk and Ipswich, and East Suffolk. The LEAR has been created by collating and processing data from a variety of sources. It gives an understanding of the types of buildings in the local area, their energy performance, their annual peak and energy demands, and the energy networks that serve them. It provides some information on the levels of employment and deprivation in the area. It enables planners and innovators to strategically decide how they might deploy and grow low carbon technologies and businesses. I've included a couple of examples of information from the report on the slide, showing percentage of buildings rated E or below, and areas where there is no gas network and substation capacity. There are many more analyses, and the officer group that has led this work are ensuring that all is used by all partners. We've published it on the Green Suffolk website, so it's a public resource. Slide 6, please, Jim. The portfolio holders group is really keen that we move on and accelerate delivery against the plan. As such, we're making a request that a further 400,000 is released to enable the following. So 1, communications. We're disappointed that it's been longer than we had hoped to deliver our first campaign, and we recognise the real challenges that our internal communications team face. Whilst being fully committed to commissioning specialist campaigns, we need to have some internal resource in the system that can design those commissions and that can coordinate between partner authorities and can support stakeholder engagement and the delivery of events. As such, we're seeking to appoint a dedicated communication, marketing and engagement officer to support the delivery of the plan, as well as still commissioning some bespoke high-quality engagement campaigns. An additional 45,000 is sought to support the year 1 costs of this post. Number 2, that will leave a balance of just over 1.2 million, and here we are very clear that this has to fund the priority actions within the plan. We are therefore seeking a further 355,000 to enable officers to progress a number of exciting schemes. And these are set out in your paper at section 5.3, and I'd highlight the following. So, A, our ambition to develop and pilot a scheme to match fund community initiatives. Parameters will be set that ensure that, that this delivers against the priorities of the SCEP, but we've heard from a number of groups how a little funding could support their own green initiatives. B, the opportunity to pilot a subsidised homeowner audit service, prioritised for those living in the worst energy rated homes, making use of the LEAR data that I described earlier. C, technical study to support the targeted rollout of further EV charging, something many communities and residents are anxious to see. And D, a net zero knowledge hub for businesses to support them to invest in low carbon measures. These all deliver against actions we've committed to in the SCEP and will keep us on the right track to support a net zero Suffolk by 2030. I'm getting to the end now. A breakdown is available that shows how the money will be allocated to these schemes, and the portfolio holders group will monitor the outputs of this work and continue to update you on a 6-month basis. And of course, you will see the communications that result from this work. There's far more that I could say about all these schemes, but I'm conscious of your time today. So I welcome your views and questions on these proposals. And again, thank you for allowing me to make the presentation.
Thank you very much, Andy. Anybody got any questions or comments for Andy? Tim.
Thanks, Suzie, and thanks very much, Andy and Jill, for that. One of the important things here, of course, going forward with this new position being appointed, you talked, Andy, about the marketing, promotion and communication. That's clearly going to be crucial if we're going to be seen to be making a difference. I just wondered, as we've already agreed to support you and the work being done there, which is excellent, what sort of reporting mechanisms is it going to be on the web? I know we've talked about this previously, but how will we be able to keep updated on progress and help support this important initiative?
Thanks for that question, Tim. I think I'll pull Jill in here to give that kind of level of detail. Right. If you're happy to do that, Jill, for me, thank you.
Yeah, very happy to. Thank you for your question, Tim. No, it's a really important element of the work that we're doing, that we do make sure that we measure it. We've got some specific actions within the plan to develop a robust, first of all, baseline measurements. So we've got all that from the evidence work that we've done, and then to put in our monitoring arrangements. So what we're looking at doing is actually to build up a dashboard of performance and information that will be accessible, as well as capturing some of those qualitative stories to capture initiatives that are being undertaken by businesses or communities and to publish them. We'll put that into a robust 6-monthly update report that will cover achievements against spend, as well as achievements against the targets that we've set within the plan, because of course all of this is about our journey to net zero. So tracking actually those carbon reductions is going to be really important.
Good. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Any more questions? Okay, so the actions before us are to agree the engagement approach to support the Suffolk Climate Emergency Plan delivery, and also agreement to release 400,000 of the funding which we agreed in June last year to enable implementation of the priority actions in the plan. In the absence of anybody shouting at me, consider that approved.
Agreed.
Yep. Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Yep. Lovely. Thank you very much, and thank you, Andy, and thank you, Jill, for coming along and presenting to us today.
Yep. Thank you very much, Suzie, and thanks, leaders, for approving that. I really appreciate it, and we'll get on with the job. Thank you.
We look forward to seeing your data dashboard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on now to item 5 is Youth Watch, and this is an update on the development of a health watch for young people. And I'd like to welcome Andy Yacoub, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Suffolk Healthwatch. Andy's going to present an update on the establishment of the Suffolk Youth Watch that leaders supported with their pooled funding last summer. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, I apologise for Youth Watch presentation being presented by somebody as old as me. I'm afraid Izzy, who is our young project officer, has a university lecture this morning, and that's why she can't be here. I will try and upload the presentation myself, but I may need to ask Josephine to help. Just bear with me a second. It's not going to work. Josephine, do you have the PowerPoint to hand? Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Chair and colleagues, thank you very much for inviting me to come and present what Izzy has given me to give you as an update. Let me start by saying thank you for the 2-year funding that was agreed last year. This has meant that Izzy is employed for 2 days a week for the next 2 years to breathe life into what is a first ever youth watch in Suffolk. Let me also start by just giving a brief update as to going back to where we were before we had this. The reason why we wanted a youth watch is because there are 12 or 13 areas of the country where these exist and they have made a real difference. We wanted to address that gap. We wanted to work on issues which young people have identified as needing improving, and to allow young people to have their voices heard directly. Josephine, can you move on to slide 5, please, if that's okay. So, at the 2019 Healthwatch Suffolk AGM, our theme was children and young people. And it was then that it was identified that Healthwatch should try and bring about a youth watch. We saw that the success of existing groups elsewhere had led to very real changes, sustainable changes that had been identified by young people. And that was the impetus for us. And of course, that was the business case that we presented to yourselves. And there's a quote down here from Dr. Ruth Bushelway, who's a GP and the medical director of Suffolk GP Federation. She's one of our advocates. She's also calling for young people, students, to come to the GP Federation to find doctors that can potentially act as mentors, because she thinks this is, for example, is a way of finding talent locally for the health and care system. Next one, please, Josephine. Thank you. Youth Watch is integrated into the wider Healthwatch Suffolk work, and it includes the values of co-production. I don't know if that you can see what the definition down below tells you, but in a sense, it's about having a level playing field of a meeting of minds, and it's built on the principle that the best people to work with alongside you, if you're a professional or a leader like yourselves, to design a service, is to do so with people with lived experience, the co-creators, and become the co-owners of what it is that you're looking to provide. The range of methods which have been used so far by Youth Watch have been the use of media, social media, a range of awareness campaigns to get involved and support research, and to provide some mini reports. Next slide, please, Josephine. As you can imagine, Youth Watch has, in its early days, faced the same challenges as everyone has. And we've heard this morning about the festival that's coming up this year, which is exciting. The launch of the early days of the Youth Watch coincided with the summer holidays. We've had some serious things happening around COVID at the end of last year, and they've only just started relaxing now. But that said, I will explain over the next 2 slides what it is that Izzy and a core group of Youth Watch volunteers, about 20 in number, have done so far. Next slide, please, Josephine. So these 20 have started supporting and developing projects in their early days around mental health, eating disorders. I beg your pardon. I was jumping ahead. So they've been attending meetings getting people to recognise that it's now a growing force in its early days. And Izzy herself has been co-chairing the Suffolk Mental Health and Emotional Wellbeing Focus Group. In January, that group it had a theme of eating disorders and disordered eating. This is really good because it's getting young people involved at a very strategic level as well. The next slide, please. Youthwatch have also been involved in the developments of the integrated care system for Suffolk and North East Essex's workforce retention and recruitment project. Naturally, as you can imagine, these young people, some of whom will have aspirations of working in the health and social care sector, can contribute to this kind of development for the future. And a Monday before this week's in Clacton, Izzy, who's the fourth from the left, was at an event in Clacton to meet the Secretary of State of Health and Social Care. Next slide, please. Izzy's also pointing out that they've done some specific work with young people who've sought support. These are a couple of examples. One young person to gain work experience with an organisation called the Rainbow Trust. They're a charity, a national charity that work with families that have children with extreme health needs. And also on the right, getting involved and getting support from the media in raising the profile of what young people have to say about everything, including COVID. Next slide, please. Youthwatch has lots planned for this year. And in amongst these things, I started mentioning some of the projects earlier on by mistake. So mental health, eating disorders, the vaccination of young people, and learning to live with COVID as well, both as a young person individually, but as a family member who may have grandparents, parents who, for example, might have long COVID, for instance. We'll continue to look to involve Youthwatch in major projects, including, it says here, MHOF. That's My Health, Our Future. This is a schools programme that Healthwatch Suffolk has been running for 5 years. This is year 6 coming up. Our 5th year's work was reported in January last month. We've had 38,000 11 to 19-year-old young people involved in this work so far. So it's a major piece of work which reflects the young people's experience of living with aspects of mental health and emotional well-being, telling the schools, telling the system and commissioners what it is could be done better, and where there may be knotty issues that can be addressed by us all as a system. And as a Healthwatch ourselves, we're looking to involve this Youthwatch core group in our board as well, because we believe they should be directly influencing what it is that we do ourselves. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. Anybody got any questions for Andy? Richard.
Hi, Andy. Just not so much a question, Suzie, but just a huge thank you to Andy for pushing this forward. And the work of the Youthwatch is brilliant. And I think there's lots of opportunities, as Andy knows, and we're meeting on Monday, we talk a bit more around how they can get even more involved in the various pieces of work we've got going across the health and care and education partnership within Suffolk. One of the key things, just for everyone's awareness, that we've kicked off on the 14th of Feb across the county is a bit of a review of all the work we're doing in terms of children and young people, and how we can develop a bit more of a clearer strategic framework that all of this work hangs off. So again, the work of Youthwatch will be key to that, to get their own views and voices within what that could look like. So, yeah, really from me, just a big thank you. And Andy, in particular, is there any more you feel that we could be doing to kind of even further push forward with how valuable Youthwatch could be for us?
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much for the sentiment and for the heads up on the review. What Izzy has discovered is that there's been so much excitement around having Youthwatch. It's been really difficult to prioritise her time and the time of this core group. They're overwhelmed with requests to meet with people and to get involved with projects. And just to underline, this is 2 days a week that Izzy is employed to do this in amongst her studies. So there is a real limit to the speed of change and the growth. And if there's anything we could do, I suppose we could try and consider supporting the resource that we currently have in order to accelerate what it is that we can and are doing.
So happy to look at that. Maybe if we can pick up on Monday, but I'm sure there's opportunities to look how we might be able to grow this further from what Izzy's doing.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Andy. Sarah?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Andy. It absolutely gets my full support. This, I mean, there's never been a more important time to support our young people and their health, because if anyone suffered during COVID, I mean, the shut up, the lockdown that they've had for 2 years has been really detrimental to their health. So I absolutely fully support it. And anything, West Suffolk can do to help, please let us know. While you're here, can I just flag up one thing that's come to light down in Haverhill, where they do suffer from lack of services? There are apparently no sexual health clinics being held or advertised in Haverhill at the moment. And again, for young people, this is really vitally important, because you don't always want your parents to drive you to some clinic like that. And it's absolutely vital that they have these facilities within easy reach. So just leave that with you for now, and fully support the work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Tim?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for the presentation. What I was wondering, and it's very, very important, I absolutely agree with what Sarah has just said, and including sexual health provision, of course, that's, I'd have thought, fundamental. But when you have these conversations, you talk about co-production. I suppose what we're all interested in, or what I'm interested in, I should say, how does this affect change, and what sort of results do we get? I know it's a limited resource. You talk about co-production, and I think it's about how can we use resources better and affect change, and the support leading on to better mental health, general well-being. You can thread it all the way through to employment, careers. Well-being is a very broad term, but how is the work that you're doing here with this actually starting to change the way we deliver, provide services, the economy, growth, education, whatever it is? What sorts of things would you like to see happen as a result of this, please?
Very good question, Tim. If we tend not to get involved in anything unless we believe that we can make some impact. So the co-production and partly also Youthwatch in this case is all about outcomes. And the difficulty is that co-production is a culture. It's not a process.
Yeah.
And we are separate to the Youthwatch, running a program around building that culture up in the county. So we've got 2 part-time co-production leads and 10 co-production ambassadors. These are volunteers with lived experience, with a range of lived experience that help organisations or systems in the county and outside the county, regionally, even nationally, to develop those cultures. And the culture is about recognising that the seat of power currently lies with commissioners, with leaders, with people who are paid to do what it is that they're doing. And there needs to be, in certain circumstances, a shift in that power, or a sharing of that power with people that have lived experience. And the reason is, and I mentioned this in the definition earlier very briefly, it brings about a very different kind of conversation. Those kind of conversations means that the people that you want to reach, the people that you want to behave in a different way or use a service that you're spending money on, will co-own that, will understand the limitations, but they'll also understand what it is that can happen for them in their lives and their loved ones. So there are a range of principles for co-production. One of them is that you have to start as early as possible. So if there is a real genuine interest from yourselves as a leadership group, and you have the time, and I know you're incredibly busy, we have a 1 hour workshop that we can deliver, facilitate, to introduce co-production. And from there, whenever you have a conversation or you hear anybody talking about service change, engagement, involvement, co-production will come to mind. And I'm hoping that you could start to press for the involvement of people in a very, very serious way. So Youth Watch is being built around this very principle. It's the young people who will decide what to look at, what direction it's going to head in, where those priorities are. And the way we're helping them is to inform them, give them information, direct them about what data we have and what data the system has, and even connect them with other Youth Watch. Because it's no good just looking in a bubble or living in a bubble of our own. We need to understand the context and also understand what's worked well elsewhere. When they have spoken to other Youth Watch, they've discovered two things. One, there are things that other Youth Watch recognise as being the same priorities as our young people face. But at the same time, they see that there are very real differences. So Youth Watch that are very urban-based will have different priorities to us. It's a fascinating area, Tim, and it's all about impact and outcomes. You're absolutely right.
Thanks. And the reason I ask, if I may, Suzie, very, very briefly, of course, I think it's well known that a lot of public services, particularly the police, do have a rather large level of demand where mental health complications, difficulties impinge on what they do. And it's not about walking away, but if we can find a way collectively to reduce that demand, and of course we're talking about people, youngsters in this case, at the centre of this, well then that's all to the better, reduces demand, saves cost, and the individuals hopefully will have a far better life accordingly. So thank you very much for that.
May I just add one other thing, Tim? Sorry, now that you've mentioned that, and Chair, Youth Watch is very new. And it's very young in age, but we have a thriving network of organisations from the voluntary community sector that are there to support or work with or even led by young people across the county, massive number. And this Youth Watch initiative is about knitting together within that network. And I do hope, if you don't normally or usually hear from some of these organisations, I'm more than welcome to introduce them en masse or one at a time.
Good. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Matthew?
Thanks, Suzie. I haven't got a question really, but just to thank Andy for bringing this over and giving the update and for the work that's going on. Clearly you've found a piece of work that actually is this. You talk about the thriving the voluntary sector sitting there, and lots of inspiring stories. Clearly, I was looking through. I can't remember where I read an article, but I read an article anyway. That's not relevant to now. But what I think that what the most important thing is really is that this is a massive opportunity, and we need to. Clearly, you've had lots of support from everyone behind it, but if there's anything more we can actually do as organisations, particularly as it's new and you're going out on this journey with Youth Watch, please just shout. I'm sure there are multiple conversations going on with officers that I probably don't hear about, but if there's anything more we can do, please do, feel free to come back to us, because obviously this is really important, particularly post-pandemic, I think.
Thank you, Matthew. And Andy, we in Mid Suffolk, we have a dedicated portfolio holder for health and well-being. So and our portfolio holder is much closer to being a young person than I am, and we've recently stood up several initiatives to help support young people. So I will make sure that Councillor Harry Richardson is in contact with you, because he is a healthcare professional himself in his day job, and he is passionate about this. So I'll make sure that you are in contact with each other. So if there's no more questions, thank you so much for attending, Andy. Really do appreciate your time in bringing this update to us.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you all.
Thank you. Moving on now to item 6 is the Levelling Up White Paper. Matthew's going to talk us through the update on the paper and Suffolk's response to county deals.
Thanks, Suzie. It's actually a double act. So you've had some slides. Caroline's just going to take us through the first few, and then I'll pick up coming in. But clearly, this is a really exciting opportunity for Suffolk, and I think it's a credit to us all that we have pulled together, approached government, speaking on behalf of the county and Suzie representing SPSL, and that we're one of the 9 areas that now has that opportunity to deliver for our own county. So, Caroline, if we can pick up the slides and just run through them quickly, then I'll come in at the end around our approach and where we're going.
Thank you, Matthew. Yes, thank you for that. So as we say, this is, given the white paper was published at the beginning of February and it was quite long awaited. So this is really one of the kind of flagship policies in terms of what the government wants to deliver. And the white paper published on the 2nd of February really was the first time that we had real kind of clarity in terms of what the government feels is important and how it wants to see that policy kind of implemented. It's quite a brief set of slides, so you'll be grateful to hear that we won't go into huge detail on every single one of the 330 odd pages of the white paper, but particularly focusing on the county deal aspect. And I think the reason that we wanted to do that is given the history of ambition and collaboration that particularly Suffolk public sector leaders have led, this is quite an important kind of opportunity, and we just wanted to make sure that everybody has that awareness of where we're at the moment. So moving on to the next slide, please. Thanks, Josephine. So county deals is a new kind of concept that was introduced by the white paper, and it is the way that government now will want to devolve in. So unlike previous deals, this is very much a kind of localised way. So it is much more a negotiation between central government and local areas, and more sort of tailored to sort of local circumstances. So importantly, that also includes locally determined governance. So some of you will remember previous devolution deals and rounds where really the starting point was on the governance, that there would have to be a mayoral combined authority. And under the county deals approach, that is no longer actually a requirement. So there's more flexibility from the outset. As previously, government has always been keen to base deals on what they've called functional economic areas. But what is new in the white paper is they actually go a bit further and actually specify that for them it means a combined population of at least 500,000. So what is helpful in terms of that is that for Suffolk, very clearly, it automatically falls into that definition. So Suffolk as a county in its own right constitutes what government are defining as a functional economic area. There is a first tranche of deals, and I'll come on to give a little bit more detail about that. And 4 principles have been considered in terms of what government thinks is a good county deal. So these are kind of key criteria that they'll be kind of marked against, I suppose, to be, for want of a better expression. So geography, so that there needs to be a kind of a coherent geography. So, for example, a county area. Local leadership, so this isn't at all new and something that is very, very kind of consistent in the way that government sort of thinks about local areas. So having strong and effective local leadership. Equally, governance is still important. There's that local flexibility that I referred to, but there still needs to be sufficiently robust and accountable kind of local governance for government to be assured that it's able to do a deal with the local area and devolve. And also, finally, that deals need to include significant reform proposals. So, yeah, that if you're going to do a deal, it's going to make a difference and have an impact. So, I think in terms of Suffolk and kind of leaders' ambitions, those four sit reasonably well. Given that collaboration is really kind of the default for the way that public sector leaders particularly work, but also with other sectors as well, not just the public sector. The following is quite an important point. So involvement of districts is encouraged, and this is a quote obviously from the white paper, although the deal itself is actually sort of signed off between government and the county council. In terms of the context, a little bit of context, over summer in August, government issued a general kind of opportunity for local authorities to express or submit an expression of interest to become a county deal area. At that point in time, there was still quite a lot of questions and definitions to be kind of worked through. So yeah, it was pre-white paper clearly, but Suffolk leaders in collaboration submitted an expression of interest. Following that, there were some preliminary discussions with the senior officials, and they were led by Councillor Hicks as the leader of the County Council and Councillor Morley as chair of public sector leaders. And then following that, there was also a conversation with the Minister for Levelling Up, Neil O'Brien. And then the day before the white paper was published, it was indicated that Suffolk was going to be one of the first tranche of areas to be invited to negotiate a deal. So it is very much an invitation to a negotiation rather than there being a kind of pre-existing deal. However, it still is really kind of an exciting opportunity, and to be at the table on one of those kind of 9 across England is, I think, a testament to the fact that we're a credible kind of delivery partner and government have recognised that. And in terms of timing, well, government have indicated that they want deals to be concluded in 2022, and that autumn seems to be kind of a critical kind of milestone within that. Next slide, please. So this is an important slide, and you'll be glad to hear I won't go through this in huge amounts of detail, and we've actually got a page reference there for those who are particularly studious and want to sort of follow up looking at the white paper. But this is the 4 objectives and 12 missions that government have published as part of the white paper, and they give a really clear sense of direction of travel in terms of where they feel the policy should be, and it sets some medium-term targets. So these are all 2030, you'll see, targets as to what they expect to see different and to have changed or improved as a consequence of this kind of levelling up sort of policy initiative. As you'll see, there are a whole kind of range of different missions within this, and there is additional work underway nationally to develop a set of metrics against these, and a technical appendix was also published alongside the white paper to give a little bit more detail around those. So I won't go into these in any great detail, but you'll see that in terms of the policy areas, for example, living standards, education, skills, crime, well-being, they're all the kinds of things that actually fit really well with the kind of priorities that leaders have previously sort of identified as part of the kind of strategic recovery approach. So next slide, please. So this was the other thing that's quite different in terms of this approach within the white paper. So a devolution framework has been published, which finally gives us a little bit more clarity about what government expects may or may be a starting point for a deal. So as we said, just to emphasise, this is a localised approach. So within this table, we've got some policy areas and then some detail of the types of freedoms, flexibilities, responsibilities that may be devolved to match against that policy area. They aren't a minimum offer, so they aren't all guaranteed, and they're not exclusive, so there may be other things beyond this that could be included in a deal, but it does give a good starting point in terms of what government kind of feels would be reasonable to include in a devolution deal. It's worth probably also mentioning that these are mostly based on things that have been included in previous deals as well. So things like the adult education budget, those that had, so, you know, the likes of West Midlands and Greater Manchester will have had that as part of one of their previous devolution deals. So there is a little bit of it being skewed towards the kind of the economic growth, skills, transport side of policy, rather than on the kind of health, well-being, wider kind of determinants, as we sometimes refer to them, part of policies. But I think, but equally, we're not restricted to just this framework. So, and we'd be interested in pursuing some of those, because clearly that's where you get some of the biggest potential kind of benefits. So this, as I say, this is a dynamic framework. So government view this as sort of growing over time, and they talk about having deeper devolution over time. And the other thing that is kind of interesting in this particular page 140, is that there are 3 levels of governance associated with this framework. So on that right-hand side, you'll see level 1, 2, and 3. And the definition at the top, which I accept might be a bit too small to actually read, but it gives some clarity as to what it might attach to a different form of governance. And level 2, which is for a local area that is a kind of a county on its own without an elected mayor, aligns most closely aligns with kind of the approach adopted by Suffolk. Level 3 being an area or a county council, well, that has a directly elected mayor. And finally, just to kind of highlight, the white paper does clarify its government's expectations in terms of levelling up and reorganisation, so that if there is local broad support for it, they would be you know, interested in hearing more. But it's absolutely not a requirement for a deal. And at that point, I'll then hand back to Councillor Hicks for a bit more detail on Suffolk's specific kind of approach.
Okay, so really, what was our approach to getting a county deal, and what has been our approach to date to get this far? So clearly, in terms of natural geography and functional economic area, we know we meet that criteria. We have a population of about 760,000. Actually, we're a large county, and we have a really good mix of identity, because we have urban, we have rural, we have market towns, we have coastal communities. So we have a really good broad spread. And I think that puts us in really good stead. In terms of ambition, I think actually if we look at the strong local leadership that we have at SPSL and the way we've all pulled together in the past, worked together to deliver the best we can for our county, and we have a really strong track record on that. We know when we look at the local leadership, actually we know, I mean, we're all here today, SPSL meets bi-monthly. We're accountable for the share of the pooled business rates. Obviously, the county council is the accountable body, but the membership is the county, the districts, the boroughs, the police and crime commissioner, the ICS, the LEPs, supported by the chief officers from all of those organisations. So that collaborative approach and strong local leadership, which is what they're looking for a deal, is absolutely at the heart of it. And also working obviously with the private and voluntary sector. Again, you know, the chamber and the voluntary sector, great working relationship across the board, which is really important. Sitting aside that, we have Transport East, and we have Norfolk and Waveney, and North East Essex and Suffolk working as well on the health side. So a good collaborative approach is the way we've done things. And I think if you wanted examples of that, you know, just think of the start of the pandemic, the way actually it was so joined up in Suffolk. You know, you would say it was dynamic. We actually worked at pace across the public sector when we needed to throughout that period, and also bringing in through the LRF, the Local Resilience Forum, and obviously the voluntary and community sector. So again, really good examples of the way Suffolk can do things. We've had joint strategic recovery approach, again, SPSL pulling together on that, and the data of analytics that we've set up, and in fact the Corona Watch, the way we were all able to pull together, and we use the Corona Watch as a really good source of data throughout the pandemic. So then I think the other thing we need to talk about is the sort of evidence approach around efficiency, savings and service transformations, that actually the track record of us being efficient and innovative and transformational. And we've got the one public estate, which we've talked about before, shared buildings across the county with the districts, the police, the NHS, and we've got Landmark House, Riverside House, Endeavour House. We've got shared ambulance, police and fire stations, and new exemplar buildings like the Mildenhall Hub. So we've got many examples of one public estate where we've actually got a track record of being efficient. Public sector reform in Suffolk speaks for itself. You've got 4 districts that have become 2 districts. You've got 2 districts sharing officers. We've got some districts in the county with IT and HR. We've got the Integrated Care Academy set up by the University of Suffolk, the County Council, the VCS and others. So we've got actually multiple examples of where we have had that public sector reform in Suffolk. We've got the SPSL, just under 10 million, 9.79 million, I think it was, invested by SPSL from the business rates pool to boost delivery of our strategic recovery approach. And this was, do you remember the Suffolk Welfare Assistance Scheme? Where we matched the DEPRA funding, again, a really good example of us working together, and the Suffolk Inclusive Growth Fund. So, and then we set up the collaborative approach to the data analytics through the Suffolk Office of Data Analytics. Again, SODA, which has provided, obviously been really important in providing evidence and evaluation and insight into our response and recovery. And then finally, as we've just heard today, the Suffolk Climate Emergency Plan, again, another really good example of what can be achieved. When we went to government, we did talk about connectivity as the county's strength. And I think that's really important. So we talked about trade. And actually, if you look at Suffolk, we've got those international links through Felixstowe, now the Freeport, the UK's, we all know, the UK's largest container port. Connecting global trade routes through our county to the growth to other areas, particularly the Oxford-Cambridge Arc, the Midlands Engine, the Northern Powerhouse, all these places, the names we know well. But the starting point of that journey is through Suffolk, through the Freeport. We have innovation in Suffolk. We have Adastral Park, telecommunications. I understand there are 130 businesses, more than 130 businesses, technology cluster located there. And it's obviously the birthplace of fibre. So a real global technology research park and international telecommunications centre in the heart of Suffolk. On energy, we're at the heart of the green industrial revolution here in Suffolk. There is a lot going on the energy front, and we know about it all too well. All the way up to Orbis Energy, the incubation centre for energy businesses as well. So again, trade, innovation, energy, are really part of those county strengths, and that's what we did talk about as well to government. What is the sort of timetable and where have we got to? So we've been very clear that we actually in Suffolk already have a strong collaborative governance in place. That was our pitch to government. We didn't go along saying we wanted to change things. We don't need to change the way we operate. Actually, we have a system that works already and is working very well. And we have that track record of delivering through the current governance model. We are innovative, we're flexible, and I've just given examples of where, when we've had to, we've changed quickly. We are ambitious for our county. We're ready, though, to do a lot more. And the deadline is the autumn that government's put out there. And we have set up in place, we've got Nicola from the County Council, the Chief Exec, working with Chris Bally and Caroline, Ian Gallant, again, working as part of the core team, which I think for Chris, Caroline, and Ian, they've been here before, but this is very different. I assure you, this is Suffolk working towards our Suffolk deal. But they will be leading and organising the work streams which clearly are about to come in place. We have had the first meeting with civil servants, which took place 2 weeks ago. Now, we were the second of the 9 areas to sit in front of civil servants and start those discussions. And I understand there was another meeting this morning, another meeting that Caroline attended this morning with civil servants. Or that was in the diary. I don't know if it actually went ahead, but that was planned. So those work streams are underway. Clearly, there's a lot to do. We've got to involve the voluntary sector and the chamber. There's the work streams, and the level 2 approach that we're taking is clearly laid out in the documentation. We are waiting at the moment to get a template through, which will allow us to start populating that, so that I think government wants to sort of have some set formula in terms of how we populate information. But we are really eager to get this underway. We're ambitious, eager. We want to get that work going. We want to deliver more, and this is a huge opportunity. And really a big thank you, because this has been a big team effort from all leaders of all authorities, the Police and Crime Commissioner and others, to pull together and make sure Suffolk's actually at the front of the queue. And I'm really pleased that we are at the top table now having these discussions. And obviously we'll look forward to updating SPSL as we move forward through that journey. So thank you, Suzie.
Thank you very much, Matthew and Caroline. Steve.
Yeah, thank you. I just sort of wanted to come in from a district council perspective, really to echo and endorse everything that Matthew has just said. I think, one of the things, and you do as well, Suzie, I know, talk to many other district council leaders around the country, which are part of the other 8 deals that are going forward, and they speak at times less than favourably about the relationship that they have as a system within their geographic areas. And, I think that we shouldn't take for granted, we should be incredibly proud of the way that we work together as a system in Suffolk. And, I sit at these meetings with these round robins of going from area to area to area and listen to the tales of woe and despair that is being voiced by some of my district council colleagues from other parts of the country. So, I mean, all credit to Matthew and to the County Council for making sure that this isn't a "we're going to do this to you" type event. It's very, very much not that. We can absolutely rest assured this is not the demise of district councils. This is a strengthening of district councils in order to deliver for the Suffolk system. I suppose my final comment would be, we don't need to do everything from day one. This is the start of a long journey, as I see it, and let's not break ourselves down in respect of capacity. We do have to have the capacity to deliver the things that are devolved to us. So the reality of that would be, let's start realistically, and as we gain in strength and experience, we can go back to central government, ask for more things to be given, more things to be devolved, and we will have that track record of delivery. That means those things are likely to be passed down to us. So I just want to thank Matthew, yourself, Suzie, and the 2 chief execs for all the work, and the team that sits behind them for all the work that they've done in this. And I really look forward to this turning out to be a real aspirational change for the way that we as a system deliver for the residents of Suffolk. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. David?
Thanks, Suzie. I think it's really good that we've been selected to be in the first wave of county deals, and also good that we've now got some clarity from the government about what powers are on offer with the different types of county deals. I think I've got two comments, really. One is that the list of the powers currently being offered by the government under all deal levels are some way short of our own agreed list of asks when you and Matthew presented these to the government last year. So, for instance, there's nothing on flexibility for the use of the dedicated schools grant, local use of apprenticeship levy, single pot multi-year transport funding, and local flexibility for the right to buy scheme. So we need to make sure that we keep pushing for our original asks and not take what's on offer as a done deal. And secondly, it's also clear that the level 3 deal, as presented by the government, still comes with significantly more powers and funding than a level 2 deal. So before turning down a directly elected mayor out of hand, we should be clear about what we could be giving up if we do so. We all want what's best for Suffolk, but there is a danger that other counties could be seen to be getting a much better deal for their area because they were prepared to countenance a directly elected mayor. And I don't want us to be accused of lacking ambition for Suffolk if that happens. So if we're going to stick with level 2, then we need to quantify what additional powers and funding level 3 would bring and give a reasoned argument for why we think Suffolk doesn't need them. Because I understand we've been told by civil servants that once they've negotiated the first 9 county deals, they're then going to move on to the next ones, and they won't have the bandwidth to renegotiating existing ones. So it is important that we try to get this deal as right as we can the first time, because it may be some time before we get to change or improve it.
Thank you, David. My own view, before I bring in Matthew, is that we as a county need to decide what it is that we want control of. And only then, once we've made that decision, can we then look at what is the best way of delivering that. When Matthew and I spoke to the government officials about this, we told them exactly what we wanted, and that included the things that you mentioned, David. And we told them how we thought we would like to operate. And they selected us for a pilot. So that means that they are open to negotiation. So on that basis, I think we decide what it is we want, and then we take it from there. I don't think we should be ruling anything in or anything out at this stage. We've told them what we want. Did you want to add anything, Matthew, on that? You're muted.
I'll come in at the end, Suzie.
Okay.
I'll just come in first.
All right, Tim.
Well, I just really wanted to reiterate from my point of view, and having been involved in Suffolk public sector leaders for a very long time, I mean, the whole formation that we have here in the governance, I think, has improved drastically. I think it's a very good way that we work together. And I just want to reiterate the point here. We are all in here because we want to make Suffolk an even better place to live and work and so on. And I think we do have huge potential. And I'm heartened to hear that actually, if we go to the civil servants and so on and say, look, this is what we really want to do for Suffolk. We want to be ambitious. We want the place to be, the best, should we say, and I'm not being flippant here, in the country. And this is what we need to do. And this is how we're going to do it. I can't really see why, with good negotiating skills, we shouldn't be able to achieve that. And a lot of this key to this is the governance. So we all know what we're doing. You mentioned earlier, Suzie, I think at a previous meeting, about trusting each other and working together. And as Matthew has very clearly stated, we do have a very, very good, excellent track record of that, and we can build on it. So let's focus on what we really want to do, and then we can sort out about any structures or whatever and so on. But I do think we're in a unique position with our SPSL public sector leaders group that we have. I'm not aware that other counties have got anything quite as good as what the situation that we've got. Dare I use the word powerful? And I don't use that term in the wrong way, but really we've got something that's good. Let's build on it and make it even better rather than get too distracted about other things. And I see no reason from the slides that we've had with those ambitions, those other ideas that we'll all have, why, if a government really wants proper devolution, it shouldn't give that to us. So let's just get on with it.
Thank you, Tim. So I'll hand back to Matthew for him to sum up.
Thanks, Suzie. Yeah, I mean, I think, the Suffolk way of SPSL is the collaborative approach. And when we went to government, we all got together and agreed on what approach we should approach government. We approach government with a clear current governance model, and that's on the basis that they've accepted discussion with us. We did give lots of ideas to government. We didn't actually, don't forget, we didn't go with a bid. We went with suggestions of areas we thought government might want to have discussions with us about. And those conversations now, because we have been selected and because actually our approach to government was recognised as being a good partner to have discussions with, they've now come back and given us that opportunity. So it's very early days. We will do it the Suffolk way, which is collaboratively working together to do everything we can to deliver for our residents and our businesses and our communities. So, look forward to keeping everyone updated.
Lovely. Thank you, Matthew. I'm sure this item is going to be a recurring theme on our future meetings. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7 is the budget. Caroline, I believe you're going to talk us through an update on the current position of our pooled funding.
Thank you, Suzie. Thank you, Chair. Yes, apologies, me again, covering as Ian's on leave today. So fairly straightforward. So this is the paper that was circulated with the agenda and the usual standing item that gives an overview of the pooled funding. So that's both the business rates pool and the MHCLG funding that was given to local authorities that leaders agreed to pool for EU exit preparations. There haven't been any changes in the funding since the last meeting in November. The only difference is that meeting you agreed to release funding that has already previously been committed. So that's still sort of showing in the summary in the appendix. The thing that we will obviously need to be changing for the next meeting will be the £400,000 that you've agreed to release for the environment and the climate emergency plan, and also the £10,000 to invest in the Festival of Suffolk and promote it and its legacy. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think the rest of it should be fairly self-explanatory.
Lovely, thank you, Caroline. Anybody got any questions, comments? No, lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Caroline. So moving on to any other business, I've got one item for discussion, and I'm going to hand over to Steve Gallant to bring this item up.
Thank you very much, Suzie. Thank you, members. Really, I just want to talk about our representation on Transport East. Currently, that is being undertaken by Phil Smart from Ipswich Borough Council, who's doing an absolutely sterling job, and no complaints there. However, you'll be aware, members, that there is a new transport group that was set up in Ipswich, specifically to look at the issues in and around Ipswich. Transport East, of course, looks much wider than that. And there are some significant projects coming online in East Suffolk. So my ask really is that we look to replace, is the wrong word, but replace Phil Smart with Norman Brooks from East Suffolk Council, who's my cabinet member with a responsibility for transport, as our Transport East representative. The undertaking that I would give to members is that Norman will, prior to the regular meetings of Transport East, contact all of your local representatives, district council representatives, who may have an interest in the transport portfolio, to see if there's anything that they wish to raise or anything they wish to Norman to raise on their behalf on the agenda items or on the next meeting. Transport East, of course, is going from strength to strength. And I think they're a really key player, particularly in light of the update from Matthew around the county deal stuff as well. They're going to be a key player both now and going forward. And without any disrespect to Phil at all, I think it would be useful to have a fresh pair of eyes on that group, and so we can all be assured that we are getting everything that we can for Suffolk out of the Transport East. agenda. So that would be my proposition, would be a replacement. I do appreciate that normally we seek to replace people on an annual basis once we look at the members that we have asked to represent us on groups. I do accept that this is outside of that timeline, but I would be grateful for your support on this occasion. Thank you, Suzie.
Lovely. Thank you, Steve. David, did you want to come in on this one?
No, that's fine, Suzie.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. So members, are you all in agreement of replacing Phil Smart with Norman Brooks?
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Lovely. Yep. Thank you very much. Has anybody else got any other business? Tim?
Thank you, Suzie. Just very, very briefly, as this is a public meeting and we did have a discussion earlier, the really difficult situation in Ukraine at the moment. Clearly, our thoughts are with the people out there, without any doubt at all. Very, very difficult for them. But just to say that I'm very pleased to hear that the Resilience Forum is looking at this, regards any potential issues within our communities in Suffolk, and making sure, key as in the name, resilience or all sorts of other things, that is being properly addressed. I've spoken to the Chief Constable and others, and I'm glad to just say that everything possible is being done just in case anything happens, which hopefully it won't. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Tim. Has anybody else got any? No, excellent. So I think that's the end of the meeting. Our next meeting will be on the 29th of April at 10:30. And again, it'll be a Teams meeting. So meeting finished at 12:15. Thank you very much, everybody. Lovely to see you as always.
Yeah.
Thanks, Suzie. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Suzie. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.